Okay, I have to be honest with you. It's, what, 5 in the morning? I've got probably 40 tabs open on my browser.
Sounds like you've fallen down the volume 8 rabbit hole.
I've had way too much coffee, and I'm staring at a URL that technically I don't think was even supposed to work yet.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus.
Data dump just feels like an understatement. According to the sources we're looking at, especially the breakdown from Penguins, this wasn't some curated press release.
No, this is a raw file.
It feels like someone just accidentally hit publish on the wrong server, and the things people are finding... Look, I know we all think we know the Epstein story. Rich guy, island, terrible crimes. But this feels different.
It is different. Because usually we're talking about the past. We're talking about crimes from 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
But these new documents, if the sources are reading them right, suggest the machinery that Epstein built. Well, it didn't just stop when he died.
That's the part that kept me up all night. It feels like we have two massive, massive stories colliding here. On one side, you've got this infuriating legal cover-up.
The 10 co-conspirators.
Exactly. People the FBI has apparently known about for years, but just won't touch.
Which is a huge scandal in itself.
It is. But then, on the other side, you have this, I don't even know what to call it, this mastermind theory. We're talking about emails that seem to link Epstein, Bill Gates, and JP Morgan to something called Project Molecule.
And it's not about parties. It's about global health.
Specifically, the financialization of pandemics, the creation of a biosecurity state. It's a lot to process.
It is.
So let's take a breath and try to organize this chaos. I think we have to start with the leak itself, because the narrative we've been fed from the authorities is move on.
Nothing to see here.
Right. Epstein was a lone wolf. Maybe Ghislaine Maxwell helped a bit, but that's it. Case closed.
That has been the official DOJ line for years. Solo operation. But the first thing that just jumps out of this new volume is a specific email from 2019.
And it's buried, right?
Oh, totally buried.
Yeah.
Thousands of pages of legalese. But the content is, well, it's explosive. It directly references 10 co-conspirators.
10, not one. Not just Maxwell.
10 individuals.
Okay.
And the context here is absolutely crucial. This email discusses them specifically in relation to the Violent Crime and Human Trafficking Unit.
So this isn't a list of people who flew on the plane once.
No, this isn't a social list. This is a list of people the FBI seems to have had on their radar as active participants in the trafficking operation.
But this is the thing that makes me want to pull my hair out. I'm looking at the document and the names are just blacked out, redacted. And I'm not a lawyer, but isn't the whole point of the Transparency Act supposed to be about protecting victims? Like, you redact the name of the underage girl, obviously.
That is the legal standard. You redact to protect the innocent or to protect an active national security investigation. But the sources are arguing that the DOJ is using redactions here to protect the guilty.
How can they tell that, though?
It's all context clues. There's one subject line that reads, attempts were made to contact Blank and Brunel.
Jean-Luc Brunel, the modeling scout guy.
Correct. The man accused of being a primary recruiter for the whole operation, who also died in prison under very suspicious circumstances.
Right.
So you just don't attempt to contact a victim in the same sentence as a primary perpetrator like Brunel. The whole structure implies that Blank is a peer of Brunel, a co-conspirator.
So the government is using a law designed to protect victims to hide the identity of someone who is likely abusing them.
That is the allegation. And it gets even more specific. There's another email that references Ohio contacting Wexner.
Les Wexner, the billionaire behind Victoria's Secret, Epstein's original patron.
And the email implies Wexner was the target of a grand jury subpoena. Now, usually, if you get subpoenaed by a grand jury in a sex trafficking case with minors, that's major news.
It means you're a subject of the investigation.
It does. And yet...
There's crickets.
Exactly. No charges, no public hearings, nothing. The sources point to this as just more evidence that these 10 co-conspirators are being actively shielded.
And it's not just business guys. The political names are back, and the dynamic is just weird.
You mean Trump and Clinton?
Yeah.
The files do confirm Trump's name is in the flight logs way more than we previously knew. But the sources point out something fascinating about Trump's reaction to all this.
You'd think he'd use it to just destroy Bill Clinton.
Right. Crooked Hillary, sleazy Bill, it writes itself.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. The sources actually highlight a clip where Trump is defending Bill Clinton on the Epstein connection. He calls him a big boy, says he's innocent.
Why on earth would he cover for his biggest political enemy?
The sources are calling it mutually assured destruction.
If one domino falls, they all fall.
It suggests the entanglement was just so pervasive among that whole elite class that neither side, Republican or Democrat, can actually afford a real investigation.
So everyone just kind of agrees to not look too closely.
Precisely. You have people like Todd Blanche and Kash Patel who are very powerful in the legal world right now, pushing this narrative that it's not a crime to party with Epstein.
They're trying to normalize it.
Exactly. They want us to see it as just a social club, not a criminal enterprise.
Okay, so that's the cover-up. That's the, let's call it the old world stuff protecting rich guys who did bad things. But I want to pivot to the new world stuff, because the deeper you go in these files, the less Epstein looks like just a pervert with an island, and the more he looks like, I don't know, a spy.
Well,
A power broker.
and this is the critical shift in understanding, I think. For years, the whole debate was, is he CIA? Is he Mossad?
Right, was he just an asset?
But these new documents suggest maybe he wasn't just an asset following orders. He might have been an architect.
An architect of what, though?
Of geopolitical maneuvering. And this is where we have to look at what the sources are calling the British nexus.
Okay.
We tend to focus on the U.S. side because of Trump and Clinton, but the sources really emphasize that this operation was deeply, deeply rooted in the U.K. And unlike the U.S., where everyone's saying move on, the system in the U.K. is actually cracking.
Well, we saw Prince Andrew get stripped of his titles. That's not nothing.
It's significant. But the files suggest Andrew wasn't just a party guest. The allegation is that he was receiving state secrets via Epstein.
Receiving them? I thought the whole theory was Epstein extracted secrets from powerful people to blackmail them.
It seems to have worked both ways. The sources describe this flow of information. Epstein was reportedly using intel from figures like Peter Mandelson, who's a massive figure in British politics, to execute real-time financial maneuvers.
Wait, hold on. So he's getting insider political info state secrets and using it to play the market?
Exactly. He's trading on geopolitical information before the public even knows it exists. And that's why the UK fallout is so seismic, as the sources put it. In the US, it's treated like a sex scandal. In the UK, it's being treated like a national security breach.
Which makes sense why he would need all that leverage. If you're trading state secrets, you need some serious insurance.
And that brings us to the bridge, the connection between the sex trafficking and this mastermind theory.
Right.
Because a lot of people listening might be thinking, okay, he was a creep, but how does that connect to Bill Gates and biosecurity? The answer, according to these sources, is leverage.
Blackmail.
Pure and simple. You don't get the keys to the kingdom without it. The sources argue the trafficking operation was what generated the blackmail needed to force these powerful figures, scientists, bankers, politicians, to sign off on plans they would never otherwise touch.
And the plan was Project Molecule.
Yes. This is the absolute heart of the new revelation. We're talking about documents and emails starting around 2011. The players are Epstein, Bill Gates, and top executives at JP Morgan.
Okay, so lay it out for me. What is Project Molecule?
In the simplest terms, it was a business plan for a biosecurity state. Epstein himself estimated it as a $100 billion instrument.
$100 billion?
And the goal was to create a permanent global structure for vaccine deployment in what they called militarized biosurveillance.
Militarized biosurveillance? That sounds like a sci-fi villain plot. What does that actually mean?
It means using military-grade tracking and logistics to manage public health. But the key was the structure. It was all designed to be tax neutral, to offer donor anonymity.
To hide the money.
And to bypass national sovereignty. Essentially, a supranational organization funded by private equity and NGOs that could dictate health policy to entire nations without voters having any say at all.
And Epstein is the one putting this all together? I thought he was just a financial advisor.
The emails apparently show him directing JP Morgan on how to structure it. He's telling the bankers how to do their jobs. He is the architect.
So the question is, why would Bill Gates, who has his own massive foundation, his own lawyers, why would he listen to Jeffrey Epstein?
Back to the leverage.
The blackmail.
The sources are very specific here. They point to emails that suggest Epstein had some kind of dirt on Gates regarding a personal medical issue.
Okay.
The implication in the source material is that it was an STD, and Epstein threatened to tell Melinda Gates.
That seems almost petty compared to global domination, but I guess if it destroys your marriage, it works.
It was reportedly very effective. After this threat, Gates apparently granted Epstein this broad immunity to negotiate on his behalf.
Immunity?
It included the power to fire Gates' own scientific chief officer in 2013.
That's the smoking gun for me. You don't let your money guy fire your top scientist unless that guy owns you.
Exactly. And once Epstein had that level of control, the sources claim they moved from planning to rehearsal.
Rehearsal.
They point to the 2014 Ebola outbreak in West Africa.
Whoa, hold on. Are they saying they caused Ebola? Because that's a huge leap.
No, the sources aren't saying they caused the virus itself. They're saying they used the outbreak to test the response model, the militarized model. Oh. And there's a specific piece of evidence that ties this all the way to the top, an email where Gates is reporting back to Epstein about a private meeting with President Obama regarding the Ebola response.
Okay, devil's advocate here. Bill Gates is a huge donor. Of course he meets with presidents. Why is that weird?
The meeting itself isn't weird. But immediately debriefing Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender, about a national security level meeting, that implies Epstein was read in.
He wasn't just a donor, he was part of the strategy.
He was. So Ebola was the dry run. And the sources argue that this led directly to the financialization of pandemics.
This is where we get into those pandemic bonds and parametric triggers.
Yes.
I read that section of the notes 3 times, and I'm still struggling. Break it down for me. What is a parametric trigger?
Okay, think about like fire insurance. Normally with fire insurance, you only get paid if your house actually burns down. An adjuster comes out, looks at the damage, and then writes a check.
Right. Makes sense.
A parametric trigger is different. It's like having insurance that pays out automatically if the thermometer on your porch just hits 100 degrees. It doesn't matter if there's a fire or not. The number is hit, the money moves.
Okay. Wait. So if I hold that insurance policy, I now have a massive financial incentive to, hold a lighter under the thermometer.
Bingo. That's the argument. The sources say this creates an institutional gravitational pull toward pandemics.
Because there's a market for it.
If you have billions of dollars in bonds that only pay out when an infection rate hits a certain number or a state of emergency is declared, you have created a market for disaster.
It turns a pandemic from a tragedy into a payday.
And it incentivizes the response. The lockdowns, the testing mandates, all these things are what triggered the data points that release the money.
It's actually sickening. It's an engine that runs on crisis.
And like any engine, it needs protection. You can't have people looking under the hood asking, hey, why does this look like a casino?
Which brings us to the enforcement arm, because that's the piece that affects us, the listeners.
No, directly. The sources name a specific organization, the Center for Countering Digital Hate, or CCDH.
Yeah.
And a man named Morgan McSweeney.
I've heard that name. He's a big political operative in the UK.
A very big one. The claim in these documents is that this apparatus groups, like the CCDH, was specifically set up to label any dissent against the biosecurity state as domestic terrorism.
Or hate speech or disinformation.
Right. So if you go online and say, hey, these pandemic bonds look like a scam, or maybe we shouldn't lock down the entire economy.
You're not just sharing an opinion anymore.
Under this model, you are attacking the business plan. So the CCDH labels you a threat. They pressure platforms to deplatform you. They frame financial skepticism as a public safety issue. It's the immune system for the Project Molecule beast.
It closes the loop. You've got JP Morgan on the money, Gates on the health policy, the blackmail keeping politicians in line.
And the enforcement arm silencing any critics.
And Epstein was sitting right in the middle of it all until 2019.
Right.
Let's just look at that timeline again, because when you lay it out chronologically, the whole coincidence theory really starts to fall apart.
It's a very, very tight window. July 2019, Epstein is arrested. The architect is taken off the board.
August 2019, Epstein dies in his cell.
Under circumstances that, let's be honest, nobody really believes were straightforward.
No.
October 2019, the Gates Foundation funds Event 201. This was a high-level simulation of a global coronavirus pandemic.
And then, what, barely 2 months later, the real thing begins?
And the world shuts down. Now, one of the sources we looked at poses a very dark question here.
Did the lockdown serve a secondary purpose?
Getting affairs in a row. Think about it. If Epstein's files really contained evidence of this massive global construct, plus all the blackmail on everyone from princes to presidents, his arrest was a nuclear event.
An existential threat to everyone involved in Project Molecule.
Absolutely. So the theory is, you shut down the world, you empty the offices, you freeze travel.
And suddenly, you have free reign to scrub the servers, move the assets, and restructure the entire organization without anyone watching.
It's the ultimate shredding party. The source suggests it allowed for a massive transfer of power. We moved from a world run by sovereign nations to this this supranational biosecurity state run by NGOs and private equity.
And Epstein, the guy who designed it all, he just knew too much.
He knew where all the bodies were buried because he helped design the cemetery. He was a liability.
It really changes how you hear that phrase, move on, doesn't it? When the DOJ says it's time to move on, they're not just trying to save face.
No. They're asking us to look away from the operating system of the modern world. They're protecting a structure that is still very much in place.
The 10 co-conspirators are still out there.
The financial instruments, those parametric triggers, are still on the books.
And the CCDH is still watching what we say about it.
Precisely. The documents show this was never about one man's perversion. It was an industry. And the factory is still running.
So here's the final thought to chew on. If Epstein was the architect of this $100 billion biosecurity model, and he's gone, who's running it now?
That is the question, isn't it? The plan didn't die with him. Project Molecule was designed for perpetuity.
Well, I am definitely not going back to sleep now. That's what we found in this deep dive of Volume 8. It is dark, it's complex, and frankly, it demands that we pay attention.
Absolutely. The files are out there. We just have to keep reading them.
Thanks for listening. We'll keep watching.
Stay curious.